it's Froggy, and I'm back again with another episode of C14 Dating. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start. The halfway point, huh? Today, Callan Cave would receive an influx of new students, meaning repeated lectures and speeches. I could count on Kyler, Chantal, and Joan returning, and of course, the main excavation team, but as usual, the truck pulled up before the closed gate. Augustin hopped out and unlocked it. Before returning to his vehicle to park it elsewhere, Sherry approached me, patting her purse. I have your journal. Please go over it when you have the chance. Will do. Thanks, Sherry. She disappeared into the museum. As time passed, more and more students arrived. Unlike the first time, I immediately greeted them with my broken French, then explained that I could not speak it well. They responded in English with various degrees of fluency, appreciating the warm welcome. Hendrik and Rosemary arrived next. Hendrik gave a friendly wave as I hurried to meet them. Leaning down, he greeted me with a light kiss to both cheeks, and Rosemary followed suit.
Hey, Melissa, how was your weekend? Looks like you survived at least. I hope the scary sounds didn't keep you awake all night.
I learned to drown them out with my headphones. Now I can actually sleep.
Sounds? My uncle joked that the museum was haunted by the wrath of the Neanderthal we dug up, and she believed it.
I did not, or do not. It's a little eerie at night, that's all.
Well, you are surrounded by a lot of bones. Wrath of the Neanderthal? Ha! You're more likely to be haunted by the ghosts of the students who found stone tools in their wet screen.
You aren't helping. We talked until Hendrik and Rosemary excused themselves to set up their equipment. It looked like everyone arrived. Even Kyler gave me a nod of acknowledgement before vanishing to the tent area. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted DeAndre and Shoji both pulling their luggage and brightened. DeAndre's return was expected, but Shoji had no reason to continue the elective.
And we've seen this part, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip. And we're back. So, she just did the lab bit on the puke, but we've seen that like 3 times already, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip that part. But we've got a new decision coming up, so I'm gonna go ahead and start from here.
The table vibrated, and DeAndre snatched his phone as Hendrik looked in disapproval. After DeAndre tapped the screen a few times, his face fell. He read something, then stuffed the phone into his pocket to hide it. Something up?
Just training schedules. Bad enough I have to miss most of them until I finish the elective. What do you train in? I was surprised that you decided to repeat archaeology instead of signing up for a different course in the fall. Rugby. I play for Perona RC.
There was a beat before Hendrik shot up, the chair screeching back from the sheer force.
What? You play in the league? That's cool. If I remember correctly, you guys performed pretty well in the final game.
Wait. You're a professional athlete?
I've only been on the roster for a year. That's why I vowed to work harder this season. If you ever want game tickets, you know who to ask. Now I see why you retook the elective. Right. Once I get my required credits and graduate, I'll move to Perona. I'll be able to focus on my training better and regain my independence. Living in New Zealand drained me financially, and I miss having my own place, though it's possible my brother might join me if he doesn't mind the commute to university. Okay, so usually we do still planning to return, right? But this time we're going to talk about moving out.
It's really nice having your own place, even for a little while.
You moved out?
I'm in the dorms to avoid the commute, since my uni is pretty far. Not looking forward to the awkward part where I move back in until I find a job, though. I know what you mean. John and I have discussed finding more roommates to share the rent to avoid moving back. You're the oldest one here, Hendrik. When did you move out?
Me? I moved to Germany after high school for my education. Lived in this tiny little apartment until I finished my master's and moved back here.
How were you able to afford all that? Did you balance a part-time job?
Well, most of German universities are state-funded. There are no tuition fees aside from your books and typical living expenses. My scholarships covered all that.
Education is free? Lucky! I had to get a student loan. And now?
It's not much, but I live in an apartment complex a little outside Namur. I picked it mostly for location.
Ah, does it overlook the Muse River?
That, and you get a nice view of the limestone quarry on the opposite side of the river.
The main door swung open and Rosemary stepped out.
Hen, reminding you that a group tour will arrive in about 30 minutes. They're on their way now. Already? Thanks, Rose. Melissa, I'm going to be ordering everyone to clean up and head back to the cave. We won't be able to get any work done with the 20-something kids around. Feel free to pretend to dig if you'd like. It's all for the kids.
Hendrik stood up and started the announcement in French. I returned the half-cleaned bone to the tin foil and began washing off the tools.
And we've seen this, so I'm going to go ahead and skip up. Okay, so we got another cutscene, and I'm going to go ahead and start.
And done with this bag. I exhaled and rolled my shoulder before standing up to stretch out completely. Hunching over the table while cleaning took a lot out of me. And it wasn't even noon yet.
You're getting efficient at this.
Hendrik gazed at the tray cups full of clean finds. He picked up one to examine, and I sighed in relief. Thanks. He frowned and then picked up another bone. My stomach churned, having a bad feeling about this. What is it?
It's the dating format. We use day, month, year here, not month, day, year.
What? I stood up and scanned through the cups, and indeed, the findings all had the MDY format written on them.
Do you know how long you've been using the MDY format?
I wasn't thinking. I'm so used to writing it that way. Hendrik, I'm so sorry. I can redo all this. Although that meant scratching all the ink off and damaging the findings.
Don't worry about it. I'll check the documents you've cleaned. That's why everyone signs them, so we know who is responsible for handling them.
Still, that sounded time-consuming, and I could tell Hendrik wasn't thrilled by the idea of fixing a student's mistake.
Rose, I'll need your help with something.
Seriously, I can... I stopped, realizing I was on the verge of panicking. Hendrik gestured to my seat, his tone gentle but assertive.
It's okay, Melissa. For all we know, this is your only formatting error. We're double-checking to make sure.
Okay. I watched Hendrik approach Rose, both of their expressions serious as they discussed the problem. I had no idea the date format was that important. I lowered my head and continued working while making sure I didn't repeat the mix-up. It was only when people started cleaning their stations that I realized it was almost lunchtime. Maybe some food would calm me down. Sighing, I tore at the Swiss cheese absent-mindedly, my fingers fumbling as I tried to contain my feelings. It was a battle, though. All my mistakes finally caught up to me, and my confidence melted like cheese in a hot soup.
Mel?
Yeah?
Are you okay? You seem out of it.
Just tired. Why do you ask?
Because you're missing your soup.
Huh? I glanced down and realized I had a mountain of cheese fragments piled up beside my bowl. Whether it was the waste of food or the transparency of my emotions, my eyes watered again, threatening to spill out. Blinking, I held back a hiccuping sob and stood, nearly tripping over the bench in my haste. Mentally apologizing to the poor soul who had to clean up my mess, I retreated to my tent. Moments later, I curled up on the air mattress, my head buried against my knees. Warm tears rolled down my cheeks, and I occasionally wiped my face against my pants. I'm a failure of an archaeologist. I couldn't even write down the dates right. This was a mistake after all. I can't do this. I want to go home. Sherry must regret bringing me over. I heard footsteps approach the tent area, and I struggled to keep my crying to a minimum. My tent was closed, save for a small slit to allow some fresh air in. I sniffled, but quieted down, not wanting to disturb the person who was probably grabbing a phone or some other possession. However, the steps halted in front of my tent, and I glanced up curiously, spotting a dark outline through the fabric.
Melissa, you're in there, right?
I froze when I heard his voice and ignored the flop in my stomach. Yeah, I'm here.
I saw you leave, and I feel I'm responsible for this. Do you want to talk about it? Yep, let's talk to him. Aw.
I crawled over to the flap and unzipped it to give Hendrik access before scooting back. He entered and made himself comfortable on the other side of the mattress. With how easily he moved, it was like home to him. It was still a cramped one-person tent, and he shifted into a cross-legged position.
Pardon the intrusion. I thought you'd feel more at ease with a private chat.
I hastily rubbed my eyes, trying to maintain some presentability. Something soft brushed against my hand, and I saw a folded tissue with distinctive flower patterns. They were the same ones you could grab from the lab. I gratefully accepted them and proceeded to blow my nose. Hendrik waited patiently until I was composed enough to speak. I still feel guilty about what happened earlier.
The date mix-up? It's alright. Mistakes happen.
I feel that's all I'm doing, though.
There's more to it?
It started when I forgot to draw the grid map, and the bones kept falling apart in the lab. The tears returned and my voice cracked as I continued. Now I'm second-guessing myself. I'm starting to feel I stumbled in the wrong direction career-wise. I can't seem to get anything right. I feel like I wasted my time, Sherry's time, your time, and the expenses my parents covered to get me here. I buried my face into the tissue again, attempting to suppress the sobs. Now I feel like the one being unprofessional.
Don't be. It's understandable when it feels like you've been bungling along. This is your first archaeology dig. Mistakes and slip-ups are bound to happen. People with years of experience under their belts make them. If you weren't making any mistakes, then it'd be because you're either hiding them or you're not even excavating.
Even so, I feel like I made a lot of them. More than what's expected from an archaeology student. I hope I didn't disappoint you, since I'm Sherry's student and all.
Far from it. Didn't I already call you hardworking? After I talked to you about not filling out the grid map, you corrected your mistake and maintained your recording since. As for cleaning the bones, it's really trial and error. Oh, there are recommendations, suggestions, and obvious do-nots, but in the end, it comes down to using your best judgment since every bone's condition is different. It's tricky and can be frustrating, but you improve from all the experience, and then it'll feel like second nature. Now, if you kept repeating mistakes or demonstrated that you're not learning from them, then we'd have a problem. Your willingness to admit your errors and correct them is what I value. Best you can do is keep going and improve. Besides, Rose and I already fixed your date format error.
What? Already?
You only repeated the mistake with one other document. We added a note saying the findings have the MDY format written on them.
That's it?
That's it.
You didn't have to rewrite the identification on the findings or anything?
What? No, it was nothing like that.
But you made it so urgent when you spoke to Rosemarie about it.
I prioritized it so Rose and I wouldn't forget and get confused later.
I worried for nothing. I thought I did something irreversible. Thanks. I really needed to hear that, especially after hitting rock bottom.
You know what they say about rock bottom. It's a solid foundation and a perfect starting point. Can only go up from here.
He chuckled and I rolled my eyes, but I smiled in amusement. Has anything similar happened to you? He paused and folded his arms together pensively. His expression softened and he sheepishly scratched his chin.
Okay, I'll bite. I could probably write a book on the times this geologist wasn't right, but keep that between us. 2-ish years ago, I was in Germany compiling the sedimentary data for a cave similar to this one. Everything was running smoothly, or so I thought. But then conflicting data results came in. Turned out there used to be an underwater river flowing through the cave, cutting through the older sediments and leaving behind younger deposits. I originally lumped the young layers with the old. Talk about an aggregated mess. However, because of that, I was able to distinguish a similar formation here in Callan Cave right away. All in all, it wasn't a bad experience then. Feel better now? A load off your mind?
Chuckling, I nodded and stuffed the tissues into my back pocket. Yeah, thanks. I really needed the pep talk. I was convinced that I was the worst archaeologist to ever grace the site, and that I might as well pack up and go home.
Believe me, you're far from it.
He leaned in, extending his left arm toward me. His broad hand rested on my head. He tousled my hair affectionately.
Hang in there. If you ever feel like this again, you can come and see me.
My finger tapped his wrist, pointing out his action. Is this professional?
Probably not, but now we all acted unprofessional together.
After a few more pats, he withdrew his arm. Once we exchanged goodbyes, he departed, leaving me alone with my thoughts again. However, I didn't feel as depressed as I did before he visited. I was still a little sore over the lab incident, but it was too early for me to give up and declare archaeology the wrong path for me.
And I'm gonna go ahead and end this episode here for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos from me, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.